I have a new book out called Rebuilding the Executive, more on that later, that deals with the federal government. It brings to mind an important question. What is our government for, and what do we want it to do? That's a big topic, maybe the biggest outside of religion and what our place is in the universe. So to help illustrate the complexities of something so vast, today we're going to talk about something simple. Milk. Yes, milk. The container you pick up at your local grocery store has an undeniable impact on people's lives, especially in the United States. It's a fundamental part of people's diets throughout their life, from the childhood bowl of cereal to the elderly warm glass of milk on a restless night. It's also a common ingredient in many recipes and required for things like butters and cheeses. So that leaves us with a simple question. How much should milk cost? According to the USDA, where I used to work, the average price of milk in the United States is $3.59 per gallon for whole milk, though it varies in different localities. Think for a second just how much of something a gallon really is. Now imagine that the United States produced 220 trillion gallons of milk in 2018 alone, again according to the USDA. The next highest producer in the world that year was India, which managed to produce only 2/3 what the United States did, despite having 3 times the United States population and a larger sector of their economy geared towards agriculture. Quite simply, the United States produces an ungodly amount of milk every single year. As we all remember from basic economics, an unlimited supply and stagnant demand drives prices down to the cheapest possible price. For milk, it's a constant race to the bottom. Farmers have more and more milk they need to move, but not enough places to move it. They cut their prices lower and lower, trying to undercut the competition and bring their milk to market rather than pour it down the drain. But we could do a whole separate video on the economics of dumping. In a lot of ways, this lower price is a good thing. It's the ideal outcome for everyone except the farmer. Society as a whole is benefited, as it means even the poorest members of society have easy access to a vital and nutritious substance. Restaurants and grocery stores benefit too because they can offer lower prices and attract more customers. The same goes for every subsequent producer that uses milk as an ingredient, be it those that need it to produce cheese, butter, or something else. Because milk is cheaper, everything else is cheaper too. But for the dairy farmer, there's a problem. Cheaper milk means smaller profit margins. The smaller the margin, the more susceptible the farmer is to fluctuations in the market. If the demand dips even a little bit, it can push the farmer out of business. So what? Why should we care? The farmer can just get a normal job like everyone else. Well, in the United States, most dairy farmers are small, individually owned operations with a yearly net income, their profit, varying anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 per year. When their farms fold and they enter the unemployment line, the industry becomes consolidated into fewer and fewer mega producers. These multi-million, even multi-billion dollar corporations are far better able to diversify and ride out the risks in the market. They can survive the dips and disruptions far better than the little guy. Over time, they'll effectively consume the entire industry. So far, this has all been about the economics of a given commodity. So what does it have to do with government? Everything. It has absolutely everything to do with government. From international trade agreements to safety standards and nutritional guidelines, the government is involved every step of the way. So how does the government actually affect or even solve this problem? There are essentially 3 basic solutions. The first is to do nothing, simply let the free market decide and hope for the best. This allows costs to drive to the lowest possible point, allows the consumer to have ready access to cheap milk. Not only does this benefit the individual, but lower milk prices means lower costs for food assistance programs and allows wages to go farther, lessening the tax burden for welfare-style programs. If small farmers are driven out of business, tough, that's the risk they take as business owners. Option 2 is effectively what Canada does, fixing the price of milk and enforcing production quotas to stabilize the market. In Canada, if a dairy farmer produces more milk than they are legally allowed to, they have to pay a hefty tax, essentially a fine. This restricts the supply to a level more even with demand, leading to a higher but more stable price. More small farms are able to stay in business and leads to a diversified industry of producers. In addition to leading to more expensive milk, this also has a diplomatic cost. The only way to make the system work is to limit dairy imports from other countries. There's no point in limiting Canadian production if Americans can quite literally flood the border with milk. Seriously, 22 trillion gallons is an unfathomable amount of something. And then there's door number 3, the option the United States currently employs, allowing the market to flow freely while subsidizing farmers to mitigate the risk at the taxpayer's expense. It's basically a halfway point between options 1 and 2. The United States does this through safety net programs to small farmers, like USDA's Dairy Margin Coverage Program. To put it simply, the DMC program is an insurance policy run by the government. Dairy farmers purchase a certain amount of coverage related to the price of milk. If the price dips too low, the policy gives the farmer a payout, helping to make up for the difference. This allows the farmer to take on more risk and ride out sudden unexpected dips in the market at the taxpayer's expense. This allows smaller farms to stay in business and keeps milk around a medium price, higher than a free market, but lower than something like Canada's controlled market. So what's the right answer? What should a country or their government do? There isn't one. That's the whole point. There are pros and cons to each of these solutions. Something as simple as milk, something we all take for granted, is a deeply complex issue with far-reaching effects. No matter what you choose, there's a cost, and someone is going to have to pay it. Lower prices are better for the consumer, but worse for the farmer. Higher prices not only mean an increased burden on the individual, it means residual effects through countless industries, from restaurant prices to the cost of school lunches. There's simply no solution that is going to make everyone happy. And this isn't limited to just milk. Every single industry, from aviations to telecommunications to healthcare and automobiles, has their own variant of the dairy problem. We like to think of the federal government as this big, historical force that exists to fight wars or enact sweeping social changes in programs like Social Security or Medicare. In reality, much of the federal government is dedicated towards dealing with the thousands of unanswerable questions such as this one. The day-to-day of governance is more than trade deals or the number of battleships we should be employing. It's more than the wrangling of Congress or the stagnation of social issues. It's stopping to untangle a massive web of consequences and ask simple questions that affect the lives of millions of people. Questions like, what should be the price of milk? If you liked this video, I wrote a whole book about things just like it. Rebuilding the Executives about what our government is for, the problems weighing it down, and what we can do about it. I put a lot of work into it and am pretty proud of the result. If you want to support the channel, you can pick up a copy on Google Play or Amazon Kindle. I make these videos as advertisements for my books, so if you want me to keep making them, go buy something. Every bit of support helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.